Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, I will describe to you a very beautiful bag model belonging to a famous brand. I would like to show you our model closely. I used knitting stitch for my bag, and we prepared our bag by knitting only using the single needle technique. It was a pretty big, nice bag. I worked exactly in accordance with the original. There was no lining inside originally. A nice bag that can be used without lining. You can use this as a beach bag or as a daily bag if you want. It was a really beautiful piece. I tried to share all the details with you step by step in the video. You can find all the details of how much rope I used and the dimensions of our bag in the video. I hope it will be a useful content. Before moving on to our detailed recipe, I would like to make a small request from you. I would be really happy if you subscribe to our channel for free, like the video, and leave your comments. Let's move on to our recipe. Paper string for my bag. I bought my paper thread in skeins by the kilo. After turning it into a ball without softening, I prepared my bag by knitting it in a single layer. I used approximately 800 and 900 grams of paper thread here. I bought 2 skeins of cream color, 1 skein of brown color, and 1 skein of green color. The size of my bag is not a small bag, I use that much paper, but if you reduce the size of this bag or want to make it larger, the grams of yarn you will use will vary here. It is also worth noting that I take my yarn aside. The crochet number I used while knitting the paper rope was 3 millimeters. You can determine your own crochet number according to the thinness and thickness of your own yarn, the tightness and looseness of your knitting. Here, just chain and work single crochet. Look, we need 5 pieces in total here. We have 2 pieces of stem that we work with such frequent needles. I'll put this aside like this. We have 2 side bellows. I worked as in the original. One side will be cream and the other side will be coffee. If anyone is curious about the original colors, I will add them to the screen. He can also look from there. If you want to work with the original colors, you can. Or you can also evaluate the ropes you have. It doesn't necessarily have to be transitive like that. This is a nice project that can be done with leftover paper threads. You can also work with color transitions. It's entirely up to your taste. We have 2 side bellows. I will be sharing their measurements with you again. Look, there is a large rectangular drawing. We have a piece like this. This forms the front and back of our bag. We showed the side bellows and showed the handle. Now we are working single crochet on the chain here. How do we do this? Let's share it with you right away. I will use a cotton thread here to describe it more easily. I will use 3 millimeter crochet hook again. Look, here we start by just pulling the chain. After locking our first chain, we pull our chains so that they are a little bit looser than the setting we knitted. I do not recommend you to pull it too tightly, it will tighten, or if you pull it too loosely, it will ripple again. If you want to do this in a controlled manner, you can work on a small piece. I say this for those who are starting for the first time. Look, this chain is enough. Here I will also give the numbers of the rectangular piece I knitted, but first I would like to describe to you how we prepare our knitting. After pulling our chain long enough, we turn our chain upside down. Look, we will prepare our knitting by dipping into the dashed lines behind our chain. We leave the last chain on the back cut line of the next chain. We make a stitch from here by sinking. We have 2 stitches. We filled it. We are knitting a single crochet. Look, we are sinking into the back cut line of the chain. We removed a loop and we knit a single crochet. The reason why we do it this way, look, when we do a single crochet by sinking into the back cut line, look, the beginning part looks like a spike and the end point is also a spike. The spike looks nice, we get a nice look. If you want, you can start by dipping into the normal chains. We dip into the back cut line, remove the loop and knit a single crochet. See, when you turn the straight part of the chain to the back, there are such dashed lines. We dip directly into these dashed lines, remove the stitch and knit single crochet. Let this be enough to describe our model. We do not pull chains on turns here. We've pulled our chain enough. Be sure to pull your chains too hard when you start. If you have leftover chain, you can remove it later by cutting or disassembling it. For example, if there is a leftover chain that you have prepared until it reaches the size you want, you can cut it with scissors or remove the leftover part by disassembling it. This is no problem for us. Be sure to draw about 5 to 10 centimeters more chain than the size you want. Because when you knit single needle, the chain will gather a little bit. It is also worth mentioning this. We stretch our stitch slightly and turn our knitting. We drop directly into the first space that comes up, remove the stitch, and knit again. Look, we are making turns without chains. We continue to knit single needles again by sinking into the spaces behind the single needles. Look, we started with just a single crochet chain. Direct single crochet. I want to show the last point. Especially those who are starting out for the first time should definitely work on such a small piece. Look, the last point we will sink to is the spike-shaped point. We sink and knit our single needle. You can count after knitting the last point. I'm saying this for a small piece, especially for beginners. After stretching the stitch, we turn it directly. Look, the turns without a chain, the edge is quite regular. Dig directly into the first space and repeat the single needle in this way. Look at how our knitting is done. Single needle only. We have reached the last point. Look, we prepare our pieces by working single crochets in this way. What are we doing here when passing a new color? I want to show this right here and there. For example, we lost our rope here. Here we got our new color. Let's assume we are creating a loop with a chain. We take our knitting. We can start from the point where we finished if you want. You can start from this flat point. You can start from both sides, whichever one you want. Let's start from here. Look, after creating the chain stitch, look at the next one. We sink into the first space. We remove the stitch directly. Since we created our loop, there are 2 stitches. We start with single crochet. See the new one. We pass one color in this way. Then we break the thread and continue knitting with single crochet again. See? We complete the new color by passing on it in this way. I hope it was understandable. Now look at our knitting like this. These are the points where I start and finish. We tie our rope. We start with a single crochet and start from the first point, making the same number of single crochets and ending and starting. I want to tell you immediately how many secrets I have uncovered here. I knitted 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 rows with cream, and it consists of 14 rows on the other sides. I arranged it to be 14 rows. Now I would like to give you the measurements and how I combined it in detail here. As I have described, I knitted my single needles on the chain. Look, I prepared my rectangular piece in this way. This forms the front and back of our bag. Look, the length of this large rectangular piece of our bag is 90 centimeters, it wide, became 50 centimeters. I made a color transition in 14 rows. The cream-colored part of these color transitions is 10 centimeters. Here I want to give you the numbers I worked with. I prepared my bag in these dimensions by making 135 chain stitches and making 134 single crochet needles. It may start with the number of chains I gave, but our measurement may not be the same. It is also worth mentioning this, because our knitting density and looseness will vary. The thinness and thickness of our rope will definitely affect these measurements. Even if we use the same yarn and the same crochet number, our knitting density and looseness will be different, so the measurements I have given will be yours. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more. It is also worth mentioning this. Now look, we have prepared this rectangular piece. Here, I prepared our side bellows in 2 colors, just like the original. I want to give you the measure of this right away. Like 36 centimeters. He is 18 centimeters tall at home. Look, our stems are in the same single crochet chain shape. Here I made 55 chains and 54 single crochets. The part of me here is for him to sleep. Because look at the front parts, 55 single crochets on that long side. I reserved 24 single needles for the side bellows. Here again, 24 rows of single crochet. Look, I completed these pieces with 54 single needles on the length and 24 single needles in my hand as I extended it. You can easily adjust how you will knit this after knitting your piece. Now you can adjust it by counting these needles here. You can also adjust it by eye. I want to give you the measurement of my long handle. I prepared this with 95 chains. Its size is 70 centimeters and its width is 4 centimeters. I prepared my stems like this. Now I need to combine them. First of all, I will start by combining my bellows. Look, I broke my thread while knitting the first bellows, but I had a rope left here while knitting the second bellows. Now look, I will combine them here. The future of this bellows will be the shortest. This is the point where the base will be. I made it clear with safety pins so that my job will be easier. When you hold this in your hand, you will be able to do it more easily. Now look at this piece here. I will start assembling it here. I want to join it from the inside. I turn it like this with a single needle, This point is the straight side of your bag and the reverse side. You can adjust it at this stage. I look at it like this. Let this part be the straight part. Let this be the reverse part. Let's join our side bellows like this. Look, we start from this side. We will only connect it with a single needle. It will be a very easy joining. Look right here. See the point where the bellows will come? Right here. Its base will join, and this end on the other side. The part of my thread will be joined. I didn't break it here. I'm doing my dark colored joining again. Let's straighten our stitch like in the original. After removing the stitch, I sink to the first point. Look, then I definitely sink to the first point with the opposite piece. I take the stitch from here and start with a single crochet. Then the next single crochet in the bellow here is in vain. I sink, then I insert the single needle in the rectangular piece of my bag, take out a stitch and knit it single needle again. I sink into my blind, then look at my large rectangular piece with the stitches facing each other, knitting it with a single needle and knit it together like this. As I have described to you in this way, look at it only with the single needle technique. We will have joined our side blind to our bag. In this way, we will have completed the side blind by joining it to the last point. In the other part, we will have completed the edge joining of our bag by joining the other part in the same way as we have described to you here. Here we have combined our first blind. Now look, we have combined our second blind, but I'm not cutting corners here. What am I doing? Here, after inserting each other into the last point, I draw a chain on the single needles. Look, we will knit a row of frames right away, again with the same color. I immediately sink into the first void that comes. By the way, if you want, we can knit by hiding the threads at this stage. Our job will be easier. We immediately sink into the first space that comes up and knit single needle directly. Dip into the next available space and knit again. SC again at the next point. In this way, we will hide the short threads and create a frame at the mouth by knitting a row of brown stitches with single crochet. Let's knit our single needles. We will cut our ties here. Then we'll move on to placing our stems. Here we will now combine our bag handles. Here I prepared my handles, starting with 6 rows of 95 chains. If you want it wider, you can increase or decrease this number. Now I left 18 single crochets here. Look, here I attached my safety pins by counting 18 single crochets. Now I create a loop with a chain of its own color. I will start joining directly with single crochet. Just look at it this way. I'm doubling it. I prick at the points where the hook needle is. I'm sinking directly. Then I will insert the 18th single needle that is equal to the opposite needle and pull it out again. Let's take it out on our rope. Look, we looked at it directly here, we created the loop, we removed the loop, and look at it directly with the single needle. Look, we move on to joining our handle. Here, we knit the single needle again by inserting mutually into the gaps where the single needles are. Look, we continue by joining the longer piece in this way. Let's show it one more time closely. I dip the single needle into the opposite single needle, then I remove the stitch and knit the single needle. At this stage, if you think I knitted too fast, you can start the video, or, on the contrary, watch it at a faster speed. Look, we are preparing our bag using only the single crochet technique. We will continue this way. I want to show my second piece. Look, we started by knitting our single needles here. We put our pieces together. I left 18 single needles. That is 18. I finished here, that is we left 17 single needles. At this point, look, we are preparing our handle. We make it this way. You can prepare it to the length you want. After making it like this, look at the brown dots. We have completed our bag by sewing it with an Eteman needle from the inside. We will be. Now let's prepare the other piece. Let's finish our bag by quickly joining our handles and bag with the Eteman needle. We will now mount our handles to our bag. I will use an easycrochet needle for this. It is also worth noting this here. When we start knitting our stems, we leave a little long rope. When finishing, we leave a slightly longer rope. Why did we leave the rope like this at the beginning and the end? So that we don't tie an extra rope to mount it. If you leave long threads when starting and finishing in this way, the assembly process will be easier. Now here I immediately place my easycrochet needle on my rope. Look here, since we did not sew the color, I will share with you how we will sew it here. First, I am adjusting it. Let's determine the point where I will sew. This is enough. Look, it needs to stay inside for a little bit of 5 centimeters to be strong. What should we pay attention to? Make sure not to take it out. Look, I'm sewing from the point where the paper thread is, but I'm not taking it out. I start my thread like this, I immediately sink it into my handle. Look, without taking this thread out, I dig into the holes on the front side, that is, on the inside, into the gaps, and perform the sewing process by sinking into my handle. Look at the appropriate points where the needle is. I'm sinking my handle and sewing it like this. It won't look bad on the inside, and when we look at it from the outside, let's check it immediately. Look, I will sew it like this. When we look at it from the outside, see that there is no thread coming out. It is easy to sew from the inside. Look at it this way. I hope it is clear. I will sink in this way and sink into the suitable space and plant my stem like this. I will sew the 4 edges like this and secure my bag handle and bag. It is quite solid. It says there is no risk of breakage, etc. It is also worth mentioning this. By the way, I also want to say this. After knitting my pieces, I knitted the long rectangular side bellows and the handle and then ironed them with a steam iron. If you want, you can smooth it by hand, but do not be afraid to iron it. Nothing happens, it doesn't break down in any way. These paper ropes do not deteriorate when immersed in water. If anyone is wondering where I got the paper strings, I will leave the link in the description. You can find out where I bought paper rope by clicking there. Now let's sew our handles and see the final version of our bag together. We completed our bag by sewing the handles. Look, I want to show you the inside. There was no lining in the original. In other words, it is actually a nice bag that can be used without lining. This is the size of a beach bag, but if you like to use large bags in daily life, I think it is a good size to use. I hope you like it and try it. I wish good luck to those who will do it. Do not forget to like our video, leave a comment and subscribe to our channel. Goodbye until we see you in the next video.